Yes, we are back. Hello, fellow songwriters, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the How Songs Are Made podcast, where we talk to notable artists about their songwriting process. I'm your host, Trey Xavier, and today I'll be talking to my good friend Eyal Levi of the band DÅÅTH about how they write songs. Episode 2, you say? What happened to episode 1? Well, with season 2, I decided to make a few changes to how the podcast is done. And episode 1 has already been shot, edited, and will be found where all of the new episodes will be found on the brand new How Songs Are Made podcast YouTube channel, along with clips from previous episodes as well, and some other stuff. Episode 1 was with Visions of Atlantis, and it was really, really awesome and informative, super fun. If you want to see that one, as well as all of the new episodes moving forward where they're going to live, you're going to want to subscribe there. You can find the link to that in the description. Or if you're watching this after the live stream, then you're already watching this on the new channel. So just hit the subscribe button so that you can get all of those new episodes moving forward. They're still going to be live streamed here on the Trey Xavier channel, but then I'm going to private them after the stream, and the final VOD will be posted to the How Songs Are Made channel. And then, of course, also released as audio podcasts after the fact, as per usual. And now, their first new song in 13 years, No Rest, No End, is out now on Metal Blade Records. Please give a warm welcome to my guest, Eyal Levi of
Hello.
DÅÅTH. What's up, dude?
How are you?
Let's see if the...
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it did work. We got applause. That doesn't work all the time.
Oh, awesome. Well, I feel honored.
But it worked.
Thank you.
How you doing, dude? This is, I'm pretty sure, podcast number 6 for us that we have done together.
I think that's right. That's right. You've been on URM and Riff Hard several times.
Yeah. We can't.
And I was on yours, too.
Yeah.
Once in L.A.
We have to stop meeting like this, I think. But great to have you back. I think we keep doing it because it's great. We always have a great time, and we always get to riff on different topics, ranging from guitar to also to music to other music stuff and more guitar.
To guitar and music.
Music.
Guitar and music.
And some guitar and music stuff. So today I thought we'd take a real hard left turn from those normal topics and talk about some music.
Something outside of our wheelhouse, guitar and music.
Yeah, something really far outside. But really, this will be somewhat different because we're mostly going to be talking about songwriting and specifically mostly about the new DÅÅTH single, which is called No Rest, No End. And I think maybe we start with talking about the rebirth of the band. You've told me the story a bit, but and I've read it on your, Facebook posts and stuff like that. But give me like just a TLDR of getting the band back together.
Well, I actually tried to get the band back together a few times over the years, and it just didn't work out. And I had this idea in my head that it had to be the way that it was. And so because that wasn't working out, I just was canning the idea. But I literally thought about it every single day, and it was just burning a hole in my head. Like, I just couldn't drop it like an obsessive freak. I was just forever pissed about it because I felt like we stopped right as we were starting to actually get momentum.
Yeah.
We just stopped. And so all these years I've been sitting there with this this feeling of shit being unfinished. So in September 2021, I injured myself and went from a period of being constantly active, like working out like 4 or 5 hours a day, and to like zero, literally zero, just like on a couch, unable to move. And I had all this energy and needed something to do with that energy. Anyone listening who works out knows that when you stop working out, like it wreaks havoc on your psychology. So I needed something to do with that physical energy and figured, why not play guitar again? I didn't play guitar in 8 years. So why not just play guitar again? It's going to suck. No one's going to hear it, but I need something to do with this energy. But because I'm the way that I am, like after about a month, it started to get more serious. And after about another month, like I stopped sounding like a total beginner in a guitar store. And then after about another month, just riffs started happening, and I can only write in my own style. So it sounded like DÅÅTH, and I just hit Sean Z up and asked him if he wanted to do it again. The thing about it was that obviously it didn't work out for a reason the first time around, and I'm not the kind of person who thinks that shit'll just work out magically a second time. Like, there are reasons for why stuff doesn't work out. And my experience now running the companies like URM and Riffhard, I have a very clear idea of what kinds of things make something sustainable and what kinds of things make something toxic.
Yeah.
So my conversation with Sean Z was, I'm down to do it, but only if we do it right. Like, if we start to encounter the problems we had before, we have two choices. Either I'm out or we do this the right way, regardless of who's on board. If no one from the past is on board, we get new people. I know lots of people now who are fucking great. Like, we do this right. And just started writing music. Got Krim on board once we realized Kevin wasn't going to work out, which Krim is unbelievable. Started writing with Krim, and before you knew it, there were actual songs. Before you knew it, they were actually good, and just shit started to take on a momentum all of its own. And the moment that we announced that we were coming back, literally that day, Ryan from Metal Blade got in touch with me to see how serious we were. Like, is this just going to be a song? Are you actually going to be doing this for real? Like, what's the situation? So, told him we're doing it for real. He obviously needed to hear music because not going to just take our word for it being good after this long. But the moment we had a mix from Jens Bogren, we sent it to Ryan, and somehow at the same time, all these other labels, I don't know how this happens, but it does. Like, suddenly they were all in touch, and it really, I thought we were going to be indie for like 2 years and that no one was going to care at all. And before we even put out the song, like, we decided to sign to Metal Blade, and here we are. It's a real thing again. Crazy enough. Never thought it would happen, but it did.
I never thought. Yeah, well, it's quite the story. I mean, a comeback after that long, is I know that I know that feeling, putting something out after a very, very, very long time.
It's weird.
And yeah, it's weird. You gotta, you either gotta make it happen or it's not gonna happen. It's not going to just happen. So you're the driving force here, but you've got something that makes people want to come on board, want to jump on board and do it. Like, you got to have something to offer somebody like Krim. It's not just like, he's plays with a lot of super sick bands. Like, he plays in Septic Flesh, right?
Yeah, and he was in Decapitated.
Yeah, and that kind of thing. And like, you can't just be like, hey man, want to jam?
Hey man, you got to trust me. This is going to be great. And I will say, my friend Jesse Zaretti, who he's in the band now, and he's a professional composer, does stuff for like Marvel, for Netflix, for all kinds of stuff that can't be mentioned. But he was when I told him I was doing this, he was just behind me the whole time. And even when the first stuff I was writing sounded like, you know, like a 14-year-old's first demo, he kept pushing me to keep going and keep going. So, and Sean Z also kept pushing me to keep going. So I had a lot of encouragement from them. And then Krim seemed like he never doubted it either, which is crazy. So I think I did all the doubting for everybody. But yeah, it's kind of scary because, like, if you want to work with people who are legit, you have to give them something legit to work with. And when you haven't done it in a while, you have no evidence, right? Like, if you have been putting music out consistently and getting praise for it and fans and making sales, then you have some evidence that things are good, that at least that you have something worth attempting. But after a decade, like, it can be kind of strange because we all know those people who ride on the past and who did something cool 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, and that's their claim to fame. And honestly, that was starting to kill me to be turning into that person. So there are lots of reasons for doing the songs.
If you've ever been to the Rainbow in LA or anywhere around there, there are like hundreds of these fucking dudes who are like, hey man, I used to play here back in '87. We opened for Motley Crue, and they made that their whole personality for the last like almost 40 fucking years or whatever. And they just never moved on. And that nobody wants to be that guy. That's the worst guy.
Especially with with the companies that you are in Riff Hard, showing people how to do this stuff in real life, and then I haven't done anything in a long time. I was starting to feel like this is feeling weird because the whole thing behind URM and Riff Hard is that it's people who do it in real life showing you how to do it in real life.
Yeah.
Like, that's like the whole reason it works. And so I was starting to feel like if I don't do something, like, I'm starting to enter that full of shit territory. Can't let that happen.
Yep. Well, on that note, we're going to talk about how you did the thing. There's really only one question on this podcast, and all the rest are follow-ups. And that is, what is your usual songwriting process like, and how was it different this time around, or what did you do differently? What was the process for writing this song? How did you go about it?
Okay, so this is an interesting thing for me because in lots of ways I feel like I'm better at guitar now and better at writing now than I was before the break. However, I didn't do any writing or playing during the break. So I've asked myself, how is that possible that, like, it's almost like I took no time off? And then I realized it's not that I took no time off from music. I've been doing URM and Riff Hard this whole time and talking to great musicians and producers and talking about it the whole time. And so that feeds into my theory that what you feed your brain is ultimately what's going to influence what comes out. So I've always thought you need to be very, very guarded over your influences. If you don't want something coming out in your music, don't take that in because your brain is going to digest it. So I've had years of talking to people about how they've gotten better, how they do the thing they do. And so that was in my subconscious the entire time. And one thing that I remembered from back in the day was that for me, it's like a light bulb. I consider it like a light bulb, creativity and inspiration. It's not the light bulb's job to turn itself on and then we have a song. It's my job to do whatever I can do to get the light bulb to turn on, and then we're good. So I always approach writing as doing everything I can to get that creativity light bulb on. And then once it's on, great stuff happens. And it happens quickly too. The challenge is just getting to that state of mind where the light bulb is on. And for me, sometimes it requires just sitting down and writing over and over and over again, sometimes for weeks. So if I haven't written in a while, it'll sometimes take me 3 weeks before I get something that's like really sick. And so for this, when I first started writing new music for DÅÅTH, I had been writing for about 2 months, and like the ideas were getting better. There's like some almost songs, like you could tell, like if we were to take this, like maybe it could be something, but I just kept doing it every single day. Even if I only had 10 minutes, I would try to at least write something. And then one day, like that section, those opening arpeggios, in the first heavy part, just came out. It's just like I sat down and they just came out, and it's like, boom, light bulb is on. Here we go. And I always know it when that happens. Like I always know that the light bulb has come on, and I guess we are activated. And at that point, and I've always done this too, I just drop whatever else I'm doing. So like, say I'm practicing and I have a practice routine for guitar. If the light bulb comes on and something awesome happens, I drop what I'm practicing and immediately start trying to get that down. And so most of the beginning of this was just trying to get myself to the point where the stuff I was writing was good. And then from that point forward, it was just a lot of torture, basically. Another thing I do, so basically, in addition to priming myself to where I'm like in the state of mind to do great stuff, I don't just accept the first thing I write. I think that that's where a lot of bands go wrong, is they start writing, and the first thing they write is the first riff in the song. The second thing they write is the second riff in the song. The third thing they write is the third riff, and so on and so forth. That's not how I do things. Like, when I start writing, I don't consider that we even have an idea until I have my first thing that, like, is undeniably good. And then from that point forward, I generally just erase everything I did and start to use that as the basis to build from. So with that said, I wrote version 1 of this song that was like 7 minutes long, and the version that you hear now only has about 2 minutes out of those original 7 minutes. Like, I gutted the song several times. So we can get into the actual nitty-gritty details of how these parts came together, but that's like the general process, is being super brutal about if the ideas are worth pursuing or not, and just going back at it and back at it and back at it until there is an idea worth pursuing. And once that happens, seeing it through as far as I can, and being very brutal again about, is this actually a song, or are these just parts? Like, even if they sound cool, like, is this a song, or is it just like a meandering bunch of good ideas? And I will cut stuff ruthlessly, and just keep going at it and at it and at it until there's something great. Like, it is a lot of that, and it takes a while sometimes, and there's a lot of torture involved.
Well, it's less torture for the audience if you take the time to experience that torture to put it together right. So for the folks watching at home on my channel here, we talked about this a tiny bit, I think, on the Riff Hard podcast that I was on recently, but I think you said that you didn't originate the term riff salad, but you're where I heard it from, and I use it all the fucking time, because most of what goes on here on the channel is me listening to amateur compositions and critiquing them. And what you described is that kind of that most painful of local band song structures. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then, it's like, and then we play Steve's riff 4 times. It's 8 times? 8 times, Steve. Okay. And then we play Bill's riff. It's a really good one. You got to make sure you wait. And, like, it's just, it's painful because they won't, they won't be that brutal. They won't visit the brutality upon their children, which are their riffs or ideas or whatever.
No, you got to be willing to kill your children. And if you hear my riff salads, some of them have good parts in them, but you have to remember. Like I compartmentalize it. Like sometimes I will do a writing exercise where I will write something and then I will take, like, say I write a 2 guitar part. I'll take one of those guitar parts and then copy paste it to whatever's next, silence wise, in the DAW, and then I'll write a part on top of that. And then I have 2 guitar parts, and I'll take whatever the new part was and I'll copy paste that to the next set of empty measures, and I'll write a part on that. And it'll get to like 15 minutes to where it's like constantly evolving and some cool stuff happens, but I would never dream of turning that into a song. It's just a writing exercise. And so those riff salads, like, I believe that not all, but a whole lot of those bands that you think suck, it's not that they suck so much as that they are just not finishing their songs, and they're just presenting basically the equivalent of like a scratch pad.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
calling it
like-
a song.
Yeah, like it's not a song yet. Now, I realize that there's some bands that that don't really repeat parts much, and they do it well. That's fine. I'm not talking about those bands. Like if you're a tech band or a progressive band who's able to pull that off, awesome. But what I've noticed is even those bands that don't have like traditional structures, like Dimmu Borgir or something, with a lot of their songs that like some of their songs have repetitions, not all do, but
Yeah.
they're awesome. They're still using a theme and developing that theme. It's not just random shit, is what I'm saying. Like there's a lot of theme and variation. That's something I did a lot in this song. So there's a lot of theme and variation, and lots of the parts that come in are just another version of one of the main themes. And that's part of what allows you to have lots of interesting parts, but that don't just sound like random shit thrown in.
Yes. So it's, even if it's something that takes a completely different form, a different sort of arrangement or whatever, it's still based on the same theme, same idea motif. So
Yeah.
it's not worlds away.
Exactly. So if you look at, like, for instance, the clean outro of the song that happens at 4 minutes and 39 seconds, I don't know if you can play that or not.
I can. Ready?
Okay.
There we go.
So that 4 minutes and 39 seconds, there's a clean outro. That's 2 guitars. Yep.
Sexy key change.
Thanks. Okay. So that fades out. But if you go to 20 seconds, where it first gets heavy, it is the same chords, the same melody, different arrangement, but it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I do that
Awesome.
kind of stuff a lot.
I love it.
But it's not as simple as just like take a part and see how many different ways you can do it. Like there's an actual like emotional and flow reason for when I do it, but that way still that outro is an actual outro to the song. It's not just like some creepy, beautiful, clean part. It's the main theme of the song. And there's the second main theme of the song is at 37 seconds. I call that Doth Riff 1. And that's the whole song is built off of what I just showed you, and then this riff right here comes in several different ways.
Okay. But there's the melody theme again on top of it.
Yep, exactly. So that was basically taking both of the main themes and combining them. So basically, you have main theme 1, main theme 2, and combine them, and then into the verse, which is a key change. And the reason for the key change on the verse was because with all this metal stuff, how do you know where to start the vocals? Like, I think like you need to have, it needs to be like unquestionable that this is where the verse starts. Like you could have sick vocals over any of those parts if you want. But by having a key change right there after the main themes were established, so you establish the main themes, boom, key change, field change, arrangement change, that sets up the verse properly. But basically, a lot of the song is just taking those ideas and it's not as simple of as like I said, it's not like an exercise in cycling them through keys or arrangements, but it's utilizing themes that I established because it's a song. It's all supposed to be one big idea.
Yeah. And you're sort of telegraphing these changes of the part to the listener by using dynamic shifts, a key change, some texture changes and stuff like that. And that sort of signifies to the listener where they are in the song, like where in the ride they're at. And that works really well for me. I think that key changes are drastically underutilized in metal. I mean, it's especially for a guitar-based genre, transposing on the guitar is the easiest thing of all the fucking instruments. Unless it's using open strings, which most of them are, and then it's harder to do.
It's the thing about it is it's not easy to do it seamlessly. It's easy to technically do it because, you know, on the piano, if you do it, like suddenly you have like some weird layout of keys, like whereas on a guitar it's just frets. So you just play, you know, even if you're just transposing the same riff, you just play the same thing, just move it around,
just scoot it.
But I think to do it seamlessly is a little bit more difficult because you have to think about how you set up the key change. You have to think about, does the key change even work? Like, does it take you somewhere? Does it make the song sound more tense? Does it make the song sound more resolved? Like, what's it even doing? But I use key changes all over the place. Like, even in the guitar solo, for instance, like the guitar solo at, where is it at? It's at 239. So it's a dual solo. There first is Rafael Trujillo, and then he's trading off with Spiro Ducia. So if you don't know them, they are what I consider to be like the next evolution of Shredder. But it basically goes Rafael, Spiro, Rafael. And when you have like two guitar players and you want to differentiate their parts, one of the easiest things you can do is to have the keys, not the keyboards, but the keys change underneath their solos. So it's very, very clear who's playing. So when Rafael is playing, it's in one key, it shifts lower. That's where Spiro comes in. Then it goes back higher. That's where Rafael resumes. And it makes it easy to know when a different player is playing. But also, the other thing that it does is it creates a solo section that isn't static, which I think a lot of is. I think solos are fucking boring for the most part, which is crazy to say considering that like one of the I think one of the things about DÅÅTH that people love is great solos. But the reason that the solos are great, in addition to having great guitar players playing them, is that the parts underneath them are written to force the solo into having to develop and not just like stick on a thing and stick on an idea and just see like what kind of Olympic feat of guitar can be done. Like it actually goes somewhere. So the first solo is at 2:39.
Oh, let's have a listen. These dick rippers. Also slightly panned.
Yep.
To differentiate.
All right.
And then also, it's not obnoxiously long. Like
No.
Both solos get in, blow your mind, and then some nice melodic stuff. Like, and it, yeah, if like I think honestly more than almost anything else, like guitar solo. I like guitar solos. Obviously, I've played guitar for a long time. I care about it, you know. But I think putting them in a place in the song where it adds to the experience for the listener and becomes is like a dramatic tool is the number one way to get people to like your guitar solo. Because if it's in a like weird spot, like I don't know, like instead of where there would be a chorus because you're a guitar player and you think that's cool, like people will go like, oh, okay. But if you put it like coming out of the bridge after this huge dramatic bridge and it like makes the song take off, then like even somebody who doesn't care about guitar at all will be like, ah!
Yes, exactly. It's all about placement and where it takes the song. So in terms of structurally speaking, if you think back to the first thing we talked about, like the main theme, which is, you know, the same thing as that clean outro, that first main heavy theme, it gets restated 3 times in the song. Once at the beginning, once in the middle, once at the end. And these solos come in right after the second restatement of the main theme. And so basically, if you look at it like there's the first section of the song, which is main theme, and then basically verse, chorus, main theme. There's some stuff in between there, but like after that, the question is, well, how do we, since it's the main theme being restated, like the listener might expect it to just basically loop through again. You have to do something to take it to the next place, and not just have a next place because you feel you have to. Like it has to feel like it actually wants to evolve to that next place. So it seemed to me like after the main theme, what is something that has not happened yet that would really, really grab the listener? Because we're 2 minutes and 39 seconds in. That's the length of some songs. And most DOTH songs are short. So like if I'm going to put out a 5.5 minute song, there better be a reason for it. So at 2 minutes, 39 seconds to have the first solo, there had to be a really damn good reason for it. And it had to be something that was like so ear catching that you wouldn't want to naturally stop listening to the song about there, which is where I would want to stop listening to the song.
It's always a danger of losing your listener.
Yeah, totally. But I think that like key changes, feel changes, arrangement changes, but that all work around some similar themes that are good is a way to do it. One of my favorite bands, Muse, do this super super well. I mean, better than any rock band I can think of right now. If you're talking about like actual musical themes, not just like hooks, not just like pop style hooks or like cool riffs, like actual musical themes, and like develop them properly and not use too many in a song, but somehow keep on coming back with interesting sections that make sense. Yeah, they do it great. A few bands do it great, but yeah, I could just keep on going on and on. Ask me another question about the song, or I'll just keep rambling.
Well, okay. So, in the actual process of writing these parts, so you came up with these themes after your development sessions, basically, right? These writing sessions, and then all of a sudden, boom, the light bulb goes on, right? You've got
Yep.
you've got ideas that you think are worth putting the time and effort into developing into a full song.
Yes.
You're structuring it out. You're thinking about all of this stuff as you go, like these themes and variations and the ride that the listener is going on. What is how did it actually come together? Like, did you demo the entire thing out, start to finish? Was it like pretty developed before anybody else heard it, or are you like jamming it with Krim? Are you sending him parts to work on, or how did it work chronologically?
Okay, so that main theme happened, and I sent that to, Jesse and Sean and Krim, and was just like, I think this is cool. I think I should pursue it. Because I programmed how it came in, and then I programmed it going into that blast beat, and it was just like, I think we got something here. So I sent it to them, and they all were like, fuck yes, do it. So from there, literally, it took me another week before DÅÅTH Riff 1 at 37 seconds happened. And the reason that riff happened there was because I was thinking, we need, like, I can tell where this is going. This song is going to be over the top. We need a riff that has nothing else on it, but that's like, could only be this band. That if you listen to our back catalog and you hear that riff, you're like, oh yeah, that's for sure a DÅÅTH riff. I need to come up with one of those. And I hadn't come up with one of those yet, so I started relearning a bunch of our old shit, and I even pulled out demos from like 1999, got them transcribed, and just started like going into our back catalog to like really try to like get myself in the mode of this band, because I wanted to make sure that everything we put out, even if it sounds evolved, it has the DNA of this band all over it, all in that shit. So I just kept on making riffs that it's hard to describe exactly what counts as a DÅÅTH riff, but typically it's in a harmonic minor. Typically, if you were to play it, if you were just to say the frets, there would be some 014 action going on the open string. However, for the theory nerds, you might be thinking that's Phrygian dominant, because typically, and that's the fifth mode of harmonic minor. Typically, when you hear harmonic minor in metal, usually people like to play this Phrygian dominant mode, and to me that sounds super cliche. And basically, it's, if you were to just think of frets, like it would be like the first fret, second fret, fourth fret, 014. Where the open string, if you're just thinking in playing it down there, would be your 1 in that mode. So I do the 014. However, I don't think about it in Phrygian dominant. I think about it in terms of like straight up the first mode of harmonic minor. So if you look at my 014, 1 is my root, O is the major 7, the raised 7th degree, and then 4, the fourth fret is like the minor third. Does that make sense? So as opposed to Phrygian dominant, where it's
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
so it's the same notes. However, it plays a completely different role harmonically. It's like a different harmonic context. So most, like, I guess, signature DÅÅTH riffs are in harmonic minor. They have this 0-1-4 kind of structure. However, it's not in Phrygian dominant. The second note, that half step between the 0 and the 1 is, like I said, 1 is the root, 0 is not the root. And I've identified that that's part of why our riffs kind of have this unique thing going on. Unique but familiar, because so much metal is in harmonic minor, but it's the way that we use the different, it's the way that we use the harmonic context that's different. So it's basically looking for a riff that kind of has that 0-1-4 action, but that is just fucking ripping. And then once I had that, I knew we had a song. So basically, from that point forward, chronologically, that's where the torture begins. Because then I just try to like write what feels good next. Because, like I said earlier, I don't know if what I'm writing is the actual intro or if it's like the bridge. Like, because I'm not going to say the first thing I write is the first part of the song. The second thing I write is the second part of the song. Like, I'm open to whatever. So I was just trying to see where it would logically go. And it just ended up with like 7 minutes of meandering shit, and I just wanted to quit. And I didn't know what to do with it because I kept trying to like find a chorus, and it just sounded like metal riffs. So at some point, Zaretti asked me if he could do an orchestral arrangement to it. And I was like, fine, fuck it. Try. I'm ready to quit. And he did, and it was so fucking awesome that I had to have a conversation with him that went like this. This is great. You've basically shown me where this song can go. So don't get mad that I'm about to delete 80% of what you wrote, and rewrite the whole thing. So, yeah, because he covered these 7 minutes in orchestra. And it was like, no, it was awesome. It was awesome, but it wasn't a song.
Yeah.
Like, but I could tell, like, that all these elements, that if you just took them and, like, worked them in with these themes that I had, it would work. So basically, I decided what riffs have zero orchestra on them, what riffs should just be a riff, what parts should have an orchestra, and then it's like almost like the road. It's like you're driving down a road at night, and your headlights are showing you what's in front of you, and you can't see what's beyond those lights, but as you keep going, you start to see a little further and a little further. So then we had version 2, which was kind of closer to the version that's here, but there was no verse or chorus. It was just the really sick orchestral parts, and some really sick riffs. And at that point, Krim and I were deciding if we wanted to finish this song, and he was leaning no, because it wasn't like a song yet. That we have other songs that haven't been released yet. This one was just like some sick stuff, and I asked him to please trust me and give me a weekend. I have a verse and a chorus for this. I just need to like figure it out. So I cut myself off from the world and came up with the verse and the chorus. And then we had basically up until through the solo section. And then the next torturous moment happened, because then it's like, well, then what? Because there's so much music in there up to that point. Like, then what? Like, how do you take it somewhere cool, like, and different? And I had no idea. Simultaneous to all this I had learned a Bach piece on guitar. Like I just took like 2 days and learned this Bach piece, which I recommend everybody do at some point. And like I didn't do anything else. I just sat there and memorized this piece of music. And the very next day after that, I sat down and wrote this like Baroque section that was like harpsichord and guitar. Shout out Alex. It was harpsichord and guitar, and it was like straight up.
Naslichord.
Yeah. Dude, it was like straight up Baroque music. And like it was slower than the song. And I kept thinking of like, should it be faster? Should it be slower? But we had this like minute long piece of like actual music, not like neoclassical playing patterns in a scale kind of shit. Like an actual piece of Baroque music that develops from start to finish with no repetitions. And Jesse kept saying, dude, that's going to be crazy if we get Krim on it. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be insane. I was like, yeah, but it sounds so cool as just like harpsichord and guitar. Like it sounds like legit. Sounds like a legit Baroque music. Why are we going to like take a shit on it with blast beats? But I listened to him and wrote, like, I took the bass line and turned that, like, I don't mean bass line like bass guitar line, like the actual bass line from the composition, and turned that into quote unquote riffs. I call it an accompaniment, and started working on drums for it. And then magically it happened to be in the right key for a bridge. And so then we have this song full of all this sick stuff with all these themes that work, that is constantly interesting. And then it goes into this Baroque section kind of out of nowhere, but not really. That's like not what you would expect. And it has no repetitions. And it just keeps on building and building and building and building in intensity. And from that point forward, it's home stretch. Like then it's just, how do we get to the third chorus? How do we put the exclamation point on the end of this sentence?
Let's pull up that Baroque bit.
It's at 3 minutes and 10 seconds. You might want to play from a little before it.
Okay. I'll play it just from 3 minutes. It's just so the folks at home know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the end of Raphael's solo.
Oh, okay. So sick.
And that's DÅÅTH Riff 1 in a different key.
Is the next thing that just happened?
Yeah,
that
where Sean comes back in with the vocals. That's that first like heavy riff from 37 seconds. It's that just played. Actually, it's in the same key. It's just played on a single string, and then when the beat comes back in, that's where it key changes down. Which it's always interesting after a bridge like that to find a way to like make the song even more exciting. So that's actually really hard to do. And the way that I figured to do it would be to modulate up with a riff that already happened, which is DÅÅTH Riff 1, and do the stabs. So, and then once the beat comes in, drop it lower than you've heard this riff in the entire song, so that it's just like almost like not quite a resolution, but just fucking heavy, and then into chorus 3. So it took a long time, though. And that Baroque part is a nightmare.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Are you using your two themes within that Baroque bit at all? You said
No.
I mean, you said you just completely wrote it separate, so it wasn't okay.
Here's the thing. I have a theory that, like, even if you're not in the same session, if you write something at the exact same time, it's highly likely that you're writing part of the same piece of music. So this literally happened right at the same time as working on all this other stuff. So just because it started independently, I mean, it fits too well. Like, I think it's just one of those things where I was in the mode of this song, and I wrote a section of this song independently of the other sections, but my brain was already in the keys, in the feel of what this song needed to be. And that's another thing that people don't do enough, I've noticed, is like connect the dots between different things that they're writing at the same period of time, which is why you have so many bands where you could copy paste the riff from one song onto another song, and there's like nothing identifiable about their songs. Like, because if you can just take a part of one song and put it on another song, then is it really a song or just ideas? So I also try to do that a lot, is to try to identify, even if like I started 10 different ideas, 10 different sessions, like if it's done around the same period of time, like how many of these ideas are actually meant to work with another one of these sessions? So I think that's all it was. Like, it's not just some random shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like it fits, and it works as a very exciting bridge. Like,
yeah, had to take it somewhere cool.
Yeah. And then, I mean, so then you've got the third chorus to go into. What did you do to make this third chorus different? How did you make it pop?
Okay, nothing's different about it except for the ending out of it. So into the choruses, each one of them has a different walk up into the chorus, or like there's a tag at the end of everything that precedes a chorus. And so if you, into chorus 1, it's one tag. Into chorus 2, it's a different one. And into chorus 3, it's yet a different one. And so into chorus 3, it's the same notes as the tag leading into chorus 1. However, I did it in eighth notes instead of quarter notes. The thing about it that's cool is that the chorus, the rhythm guitar, is like a steady eighth note pulse, basically. Like, and so it's almost like it preceded. It's like it started the idea before the actual chorus started. Almost like I don't know. It's like the riff equivalent of a reverse cymbal or something going into a part. So yeah. So what I'm talking about is. Okay, so chorus 3 starts at 4:07. Like, so if you go back to like, I don't know, 4 minutes, you'll hear at the tail end of that riff, I do this walk up in eighth notes, and it goes into the chorus, and it keeps those eighth notes going. So
Okay.
I don't know what to call that other than I consider it having the same effect as a fill or like a reverse cymbal or something, because it's like the same feel as the chorus, but not quite the chorus, and leading into the chorus.
Okay, let's listen. Okay. And then you open it up from palm muting.
But I do that every time.
Yeah. Okay.
So also another thing I'll say is if I had not had that part before the chorus, drop down key wise. So where Sean comes back in and we restate DÅÅTH riff 1 and it starts up key wise, and then when the drums come in it comes down. It allows it to walk up to a different key for the chorus. It allows it to basically resolve into the chorus. Whereas if I hadn't done that key change before the chorus, it wouldn't have like popped the right way. So I think that like how a lot of the times what you do before the part in question is what's going to make the part in question work. It's like, it's all about how you set it up. 'Cause there's nothing different about the chorus itself, except for the very, very end. But the end of the chorus isn't what's going to make the chorus pop. It's how the chorus comes in that's going to make it pop. So it had to be set up properly.
One thing that I learned doing I did like a Amaranth song style rip basically. And one thing that I noticed going through and doing like analysis of their songs is what they'll do is the chorus will be in one key and they'll play the verse in a key lower, like a whole step lower, so that when they get to the chorus, every time it's going to be a key change up, like they're going to modulate up in the way that like a pop song might do, to make it more exciting. But they don't actually. Every time the chorus comes back, it feels like it's this modulation up. But the choruses aren't actually higher than each other. All the choruses are in the same key, and it's like this. It has the same effect as like, I don't know, like the end of a Celine Dion song, when she goes and does it up a half step or whatever and makes it really exciting. But like without the, I don't know, the like vocal strain or something. So you did a thing kind of like that. You set it up so that you've got somewhere to go, but you're actually just in the same place, like, right? Like, so all the choruses are in the same key.
Yep.
In your song, but but you're still modulating up into the chorus. So it
works.
It's a fancy pants move.
But you have to find, the thing is, all of these like moves only work if the music, like, if it like makes emotional sense, I guess.
Yeah.
And so there's like an art and a craft side to it. So the actual move of modulating up into the chorus, that's a craft thing. And so if you just throw that in your songs because you're listening to this podcast and you like this song, you like this DÅÅTH song, or you like that Amaranth song, and you're like, okay, this is what I got to do into choruses. But that's not it. That's not it. The art side of it is what has to guide you. And then this craft side of it is just the technical way that you get there. But the art should always precede the technical, in my opinion.
I agree. It's sort of a thing like if you don't know that is a thing that you can do, you might be trying to achieve the same basic idea, the same emotional effect or something like it, and you just don't know that that's one way that you can do it. This is just a tool in your belt, something in a piece of ammunition in your I should have just stuck with the first metaphor. It's a tool in your tool belt that you can use.
In your ammo box.
In your ammo box.
So the thing I'll say, though, this thing I'll say, though, too, is if people are listening to this and theory terms are, like, making them scared, you don't have to think about this in theory terms. We're talking about modulations because we can communicate in that way. But I've worked as a producer with plenty of artists who don't know any theory. They just have really good ears. And they'll use these techniques too. They'll just call them something else. They'll say something like, and we just put a lift there into the last chorus. And it's like a lift. Well, that's not a theory term, but I know what you mean. You're modulating up into the chorus. I don't need to sit there and like mansplain that person into knowing what a modulation is. It's just like what matters is what the music wants, and you don't need to know theory to know that like that lift at the end is going to take it somewhere cool. But what you do need is good taste, I think, to know that that is what needs to happen at that point in your song. So you don't just do this shit. 'Cause one thing I remember from going to Berkeley was being around a lot of, and pointing it out specifically for my time at Berkeley, not as shit-talking Berkeley, but just because I was around a lot of educated musicians, right? So a lot of people who are studying very hard to know their shit. And they would have songwriting competitions. And you would hear these moves all over their songs. Like all these like perfectly executed key changes and just like all the stuff. Like you could go down a list of like, you know, the top 5 modulations you'll hear in like the top 5 pop songs of all time. And you'll hear that stuff all over these songs. And for some reason, the songs all suck. I never heard a good one in my time there. Like they were garbage. But on a technical level, all very well executed. And my theory is that they didn't lead with the art side of it. They led with the craft side of it. And so I think it's just important to remember that at the end of the day, what really, really matters, the only thing that matters is how does this feel? How does this make people feel? Like, where is the art taking it? And then you can use your craft side of it to like really refine it. Or if you really study the craft side of it, you can get to a point where it all happens at the same time. Like where you are thinking in terms of art and craft simultaneously. But I need to say a lot of the musicians that everybody listens to who are awesome don't know theory, but there's a big but don't be fooled by that. Their songs are not awesome because they don't know theory. They still have great ears. So their ears already understand the theory. They just don't have the words for it. So they're still making good decisions because they're awesome, and they do kind of know this stuff. They just don't know that they know this stuff, or they don't have the same words for this stuff. So I wouldn't. I'm basically addressing people who think that learning more will fuck with your creativity or something.
I'm so happy to hear you say that because I literally just, was it yesterday or the day before, put out a video on this exact topic of, you know, like the idea that you just don't need music theory, or that it's scary to learn because it's going to ruin your creativity or something. Like this idea, I mean, it's not exclusively metal guitar players, but a lot of, I hear that group specifically say that same phrase a lot. And this idea that like either you just don't need it because so and so doesn't know it, or that it's going to ruin it, or they're, you know, just too lazy, but it doesn't make you more or less creative or whatever.
No,
like,
well, there
people
is
know
one...
the thing. They don't necessarily know the names for it, but like you're saying, they got the ear, they got the taste, they know what to do with it.
There's one situation though where it can hurt. I was actually just talking about this with Spiro on a podcast. Like when you're first learning theory and you're learning quote unquote rules, and like you're consciously thinking about this stuff, you could, while writing, think that like you start thinking theory first because you're actively learning it at that same time. So it's like when you're working on anything, your brain is going to bring that to the front, right? It's going to be top of mind. So if you're learning like about playing in the right key or something, then when you're writing in that key, like your brain might start asking you questions like, oh, can I go to that note or not? Like, it's not technically in that key. And like, that's why I think once you go down that path, you better really go down that path so that you can get past that point of, there's the conscious and unconscious knowledge. If you start down that path, you should work on it hard enough to get to the unconscious knowledge point so that you don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, it's tough because you've heard probably that a little bit of knowledge is very dangerous in certain, there's like knowing everything about a topic is awesome. If you know a little bit about it, then you can be actually worse off because you think you know a lot. It's it's kind of like the Fletcher-Munson curve a little bit. Mm-hmm. And music theory can be like that because then and especially if you're leaning on it and thinking that you're going to be able to like, oh, well, I learned what scale goes with this chord. And so now I know how to write music that's going, that's going to touch people and like make them feel awesome or whatever. When in reality, all you've done is you've taken the first step. And that can be tough too, because it's a long road to get to the amount that is useful that you're going to be able to stop worrying about it or whatever, or the amount that you can use to shoot yourself in the foot with rather than really use it as a tool to make your music better or whatever.
Well, that's why you got to prioritize what it is that you focus on, in my opinion. And what it is that you feed your brain, right? So if you're feeding your brain really good music and you're prioritizing writing as opposed to prioritizing theory, but you just use theory as a supplement, I think that's a lot better. Another thing I wanted to mention about this song that I think helps, even though arrangement is not the same thing as songwriting, right? Because like you can change an arrangement. There's an argument to be made that in metal, the arrangement kind of like, I don't know, it like the lines are blurred. Kind of like the way that like the lines are blurred between the definition of what a producer is when they're giving ideas. Like, are they writing? Are they producing? Like, who knows? Like, so with metal, like the way that it sounds, the way that it feels, the way that it hits, that's like a part of the song. And it's not technically under copyright law. And yes, you could make a whole different arrangement for like a solo guitar in a hotel lobby of a good song. But like this version of the song, the arrangement is a big, big, big part of the song itself. And so one of the things that I think also keeps this song interesting is how much the arrangement changes. So it's not just orchestral. It's not just like slamming riffs. It's not just any of those things. Like the arrangement keeps on changing. People oftentimes when they hear this song, they're like, fuck yeah, like love the orchestral stuff. It's like, actually, there's not that much orchestral stuff in it. It's just, it's in at the right points. It's in at the right points to where when it does come in, it's making quite a statement. But then it's gone. It's gone in the choruses. It's gone in the verses. Like it's gone out of a lot of the song on purpose, so that when it does come back in, it hits. It hits really, really hard. And there's another thing too. Like I love octavers. I use octaves a lot in my writing, and there's different ways to present octaves, right? Like you could play them as an octave chord. Is it really a chord if it's two notes? You can play it as an octave on one guitar, right? Like an octave, like quote unquote, chord, a dyad. Or you can layer them, right? Like a single notes. You can use an octaver. Like there's different ways to use octaves, and there's they all feel a little different, and that makes a big difference. So in this song, I bring octaves in several different ways, at several different times, but like they're always coming in arranged a little differently. So, like for instance, in the chorus, there's the lead guitar melody that's doubled with a synth. Over that, I'm using an octaver that has an octave up above it. So I'm playing an octave down from actually the main thing you're hearing. Over the part we heard earlier where DOTH riff 1 goes into this octave line, which is just the main theme over DOTH riff 1. They're playing it in actual octaves on one guitar. Over the main theme, there's these arpeggios going the whole time. Those are played as octaves, like doubled. Mm-hmm. So, and they all feel different. And so I encourage people too that when they're playing with like layers and they're playing with different ways to present an idea, to utilize all the different ways, like think about and utilize all the different ways that you can present a type of an idea. If you think about it like enough, eventually it'll just happen that like you just know this part should be done with an octaver. It just like the feel of having an octaver on this part is what this part needs. Like, we're not going to need to experiment every single time, but I highly suggest people try to get into the weeds with that stuff and like really think about it. Like if you're into writing guitar harmonies, well, what are the different ways you can present a guitar harmony? You can play it, right? Like if you're presenting thirds, you can play it on one guitar as like on two strings, or you can split it up between guitar left, guitar right, or you can present it as a lead guitar harmony down the middle, or you can do it with a harmonizer. Like there's a bunch of different ways to do it, or you can have one guitar play it and a synth play the third above it. Like there's so many different ways, and you could just keep on going down a list. But all those things make a difference in how the song feels and whether or not it's interesting over the course of several minutes.
I think octaves are awesome because it's something that you can add without actually adding any like new pitches to a part. You don't really have to write a new thing,
mm-hmm.
but you can either make a part feel more important by doubling it in octaves, or even unison with just a different instrument, and give it just a bit more thickness, or like I said, importance, like to the listener, because suddenly it's going to sound very intentional and like you should be paying attention to it or whatever, without adding too much to what's going on. And it's, for example, you could play a melody line once, and then to give it a little bit of a kick up dynamically, you can just double it in octaves the next time you play it. And rather than just playing it exactly the same way twice, add an octave to it, and all of a sudden it's given a new dimension.
Yep.
But you haven't added much, but it's very noticeable. So that it sounds like you're saying, like, really mess around with that sort of thing so that you get an idea for where that makes sense to do, and in terms of how the song is going to feel, how the part is going to feel, like you'll just know where to add that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot. That's the same. That's kind of, I got the idea to bring this up after us talking about theory, how you should learn your theory enough to where you don't have to think about it. Your ear just takes you to the right place. And same with these arrangement things, that I'm not saying that every single song you write, you should sit there and experiment with every different possible arrangement permutation. But the more you try shit out, and the more dedicated you are to trying shit out, the sooner you're going to get to a point where your instinct guides you with this stuff. I think that's where you eventually want to be. And that's also when you start to get to the point where you can use inspiration. Like I will always say that, like the thing Mick Gordon says, which is that amateurs wait for inspiration, pros get the job done. Like, sit down and work, but let's be real. When you're inspired, that's when the best stuff happens. Like, we're all trying to get to that inspired moment. And one of the biggest killers of inspiration is to have a technical thing in your way. And so the more you experiment with this stuff, the more you're going to be able to just whip that shit right out and know that, like, this is what goes here. Or if you whip that shit right out and it doesn't sound right, like, you can quickly transition to something else without having to think about it much. Like, you're always going to have these. The deeper you get into writing, you're going to realize that you're not going to be able to completely divorce yourself from the torture of creation. But the easier you can make it for yourself by getting good with the tools, the better you're going to be. And there's something else I wanted to say about the chorus in this song. It's very important, just like I said with the verse, that, like, it's very obvious where the verse is, and that's by design. The chorus being the chorus is also very obvious. Like, there's very few tension notes in it. It's like, as opposed to like all this evil shit going on throughout the song, and my 014 stuff, that's pretty much not happening in the chorus. And the one time that it does happen, it's more in like setting up a dominant chord. But like, the chorus feels like nothing else in the song. It's like rhythmically a different feel. The arrangement is different. It's like in a different key. Like, everything about it is different than anything else in the song. And so you can't confuse it with a verse. You can't confuse it with a bridge. Like, it is most definitely the chorus. And I think that your songs should answer those questions for you. Like, when you listen back and when other people listen back, they shouldn't be wondering. You shouldn't be like at odds about what the verse or the chorus is. Like, the chorus, you got to figure out a way to make that chorus like really be a chorus. Meaning the thing that ties it all together. And how to actually do that is, at the end of the day, it's hard. I can't give someone a checklist or a recipe to make a good chorus, but all the stuff we've been talking about of like making it different enough, of making it lift the song, like making it kind of resolve the song, like all those things, try all those things. Eventually you'll get to a point where you're writing good choruses.
Yeah. The sort of technique things that we talk about, if you try them without thinking about like actually using them in something you're going to put out, like maybe like just basically sandboxing, trying them out, testing them, and get to the point where you can do it, suddenly when you've got that inspiration, you're not like learning a new skill in order to get that inspiration to bring it into the world. If that's a thing that is going to work with it, then you want to be able to. You don't want to be learning surgery on the battlefield, Yeah,
exactly. So that's why, like, for instance, with the Baroque part, it came about after I had spent a few days learning a legit Baroque piece. Like, I do have a background in classical and orchestral music and all that shit, but like, it's one thing to like have a background in it. It's another thing for it to be like right there, easy access. By actually taking the time to learn that Bach piece, that made it far more realistic for me to just be able to come up with something. And on Riff Hard, we have this thing called King of the Riff, where every month we give people a writing brief, and they have to write something according to the brief and hand it in by certain date, and then it gets voted on, etc. So this past month, the brief was to write a Baroque metal part, and there are some other specifications, but usually we'll give people references, and I told people, learn this Bach piece, then go write it. And I don't think anybody did. I think that they wanted me to give them references of like other metal bands that had used Baroque stuff. And it's like, I'm giving you the keys right here. Like, learn this. You're going to know what to do. Like, just learn this. Like, get the style into your brain and under your fingers. And then once you try to write something in that style, it'll be far easier than if you're listening to Emperor do it, but not learning it and trying to emulate that. So good luck.
That's top-notch advice, and highly recommend that all of you out there approach things like that. Really live in that stuff and get it to get your shit together so that when that inspiration hits, you're ready for it. Because if you're a well-oiled machine, first of all, the inspiration is coming in a lot more often. If you've worked on other things, if you're just working on stuff, you're doing the work. And then also, when it hits, you're going to know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so one thing that I really wanted to ask about was how the orchestral parts, like at what points, because you said that he'd orchestrated like this whole 7-minute mess that you gave him, and then you were like,
Jesse.
Luckily for him, like I imagine, since he's doing this all the live long day, like we talked about, he does it for a living. It was probably less of a loss for him. Like if I do orchestration, like it's all getting used because
he's a good
because I put everything into it.
He's a real good sport with me. But hey, I told him up front. Be ready. Be ready.
You were killing his children.
Yeah, but dude, he gets it. And the thing is, yes, because he does it all day long. He's much more comfortable with stuff getting cut. And same with me. Like, I don't write all day every day, but like I write a lot. And so that's why I'm comfortable with like killing ideas, where I've worked with people who write like 4 riffs a year. So killing one of their shitty riffs. Like I've worked with people who write 4 riffs a year, 1 being good, the rest being garbage. Like, so if you cut those 3, you're cutting 75% of their output. Like that leads to some tense situations. But about Jesse and the orchestration, at what point does he come in with it, you were asking?
Yeah. And how did that work for this song and for other stuff you're working on?
Okay, so basically I write very orchestrally, even though I write on guitar. Like, I think a lot of my parts, like, you hear it in some of this DÅÅTH stuff. You'll hear it in future stuff. If you take a lot of the stuff I write and arrange it for orchestra, it'll sound like orchestral music, not like metal with like orchestral instruments. And It's just my background. Like, I was brought up around that stuff. I studied that stuff since I was a little kid. Like, I've done my time with orchestral music. So a lot of it is that once I write something, I get it transcribed immediately into Guitar Pro. And like, I don't write with Guitar Pro, but I get the stuff I'm writing transcribed right away. So right away, there's a MIDI version of the stuff. And I will give that to Jesse. Now, I want to be clear. This isn't like me giving Jesse my shit and just being like, here, you must use this. But like, what it does is it gives him like a correct starting point to where there's no room for interpretation about what the notes are, starting point wise. And so then he will take that and start building an orchestral arrangement and his own counter melodies and his own parts based off of that. Sometimes he'll keep it the same. Sometimes it'll be completely different. So, whatever works for the song, really. But I try to give him as correct of a starting point as possible, just because I feel like it's asking a lot of somebody to like get music like this and just write a complex orchestral arrangement to it. Like there's a lot of room for misunderstanding, a lot of room for like wrong notes. Like in my demos, I don't play super tight. Like I'm not worried about playing tight. Like I'm worried about writing. And so if you heard some of my demos, like I don't know, you would be wondering if I was having a seizure or something. So like I don't want him to like have to guess what something is supposed to be. So that's why I give him the transcription and the MIDI version of things, so that there's a starting point. And so he gets involved as soon as like there's something worth getting involved with, I guess. So whether it's like, man, I need some help with like this song I'm stuck with, or like I want to finish this first and then get your take on it, or if he's really into something I started, then he'll tell me and we'll bring him in early. There's no real like set way of doing it, and he can operate by ear too. But in general, because of like the level of layering that I do in my writing, I think it's better for everyone that there's some sort of a score.
Yeah. So for this song specifically, because you had all of that, like he did all that, and then you said you like cut out a lot of it, and then you had the direction for the song, so then you finished it off. Did he then go back and add some more and stuff and finalize it?
Yeah, he basically started over, kind of. Yeah, and we used a lot of the original stuff he did, but he had to add stuff. Like for instance, the chorus didn't exist before in the original version. Now it has this like really cool synthwave sounding synth under it. Like he then worked off of what the new version of the song is, but I was really clear, like when I cut it all up, like I was very clear about, man, this shit rules. Please don't change this. Like this is a winner. Like even though I cut the shit up out of the song, like this is gold. So please, like you got it the first time. Because when you start cutting up people's work, like they might think that you want them to change everything. So right. We have a lot of communication going about like what's good, what to change. And so, he kind of did a new version that was based off of the old version with some new elements thrown in. But the other thing I was super clear about was nothing on these riffs. These riffs stay metal. Pure metal. So.
Pure. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let me think about this. So now you've got we've talked about pretty much every part of the song, the sort of origin of each of them and how you went about it. So now you've got the full thing, all the parts written basically. So you're a producer yourself, but you've also you recorded this with Jens, right? Or did he just mix it?
He just mixed it. So Andrew Wade did the vocals.
Okay.
And John Douglas did he recorded the guitars and did all the edits and stuff. And then Krim went to an engineer that he works with in Austria.
Okay.
A bassist went to an engineer near him. But like basically me and John Douglas were like the central HQ for the production. So everything kind of like lived off of John's computer. We had John be the person that sends people versions to work off of, so that there isn't like versioning errors and it doesn't turn into like dude, 232 tracks on this song, seven musicians on it. Like it could be a catastrophe. very easily. So we decided that John Douglas is like I said, HQ for our stuff, and that's what we're doing for the rest of the album too. And then so then he just took care of making sure that Andrew Wade, for instance, got the right tracks to produce vocals off of. For instance.
So that's the engineering portion of it. Like you guys, that's who actually tracked the parts. Did you have anyone working on in a producer capacity in terms of the non-technical stuff? Did you bounce these ideas off of anyone outside of the band?
I mean, Andrew Wade with the vocals, we gave him full authority to rewrite parts if he wanted to, whatever he wanted to do. Like, we were good with, full trust. And because I suck as a vocal producer, but I've always felt
I know for a fact that is not true, because you produced my vocals for not one but two In Virtue songs.
And those did
three actually.
Good. Those did come out good, but it's different with my own music, man.
Yeah, that can be very tough.
It's different with my own music, and like the music side of it is so involved, and like I have personal experience with Sean Z working with great vocal producers. Like, I know what he's capable of when you get him with the right producer. Like for instance, when he did the Concealers with Sukov, like that came out great. Like the actual mix not too pleased with the mix. Like that, I don't think it showed off just how sick the vocal production is. But like, I know that like Sean is such a skilled vocalist. He's unbelievably skilled, and he's one of those people that like you throw an idea at him and he can do it like right away, like basically anything. So I knew that like if we get him with a genius producer, a genius vocal producer, that's only gonna complement this stuff. I have my hands full with the music side of this, and I'm not a genius vocal producer. I'm good at it, but like I wanted a genius vocal producer, like straight up. I'll say it again, a genius vocal producer, which is what Andrew Wade is. And like I said, me and Sean worked on the demo versions of this. So like Sean came up with stuff and I helped him refine it, like ask questions like, what the fuck does this line mean? This makes no sense. Like, but like at a certain point, like I backed off and just trusted that like Sean and Andrew have this handled. And they did. The vocals came out great. Best he's ever sounded. So like, but I guess you could consider my role more like an executive producer, to where I was like hiring the team and like, I think it's important to work with people that you know are going to be able to like do the thing right and fulfill the vision, so that when you have them working on stuff, you're not questioning it, right? So with Andrew, which Andrew's an interesting choice, right? Because he's not an extreme metal guy. Like, he's known for a lot of pop punk. He does heavier stuff, but like he's not like from our world, I guess. But I've known him for so long. I know how creative he is, and I know how twisted he is. And like I knew that like because DÅÅTH needs catchy vocals, like I knew he would understand the need for something catchy, and I knew that it's in his skill set to do that. And I knew that like because we're not a pop punk band, and like he can go dark, and I know his capability for being dark because I know like what his art, like he's also an illustrator. He's a very, very creative person that I've known for a long time. And I know that his typical clientele just don't go there with him. Like that's not what they ask of him. But I knew that like because of his pop sensibilities, his technical expertise with production, and that inner darkness, that he was perfect, as opposed to like someone who is like a death metal guy or something. I mean, I'm
most
sure
of them don't go beyond the pizza.
Yeah, well, look, I know lots of great death metal guy producers that, but like I wanted someone with a pop sensibility. So Andrew's creativity was just the right dude. We're finishing the record with him.
Awesome. I meant to ask this, but failed to do so. So, and you sort of answered this a little bit. You said that you guys worked on some of the demos together. But
Me and Sean?
You and Sean. But at what point did you, like, at what point in the process did he start adding vocal parts? Like, did you have his vocals for the chorus after you, like, were you thinking about that while you were writing the chorus, for example, like what the vocals would sound like, or something like that? What basically, did you write it and then he put something on top of it, or were you bouncing it back and forth at all, or how did that work?
No, no bouncing back and forth when the music is happening. However, I am thinking when I am writing a song, once we're past these are just a bunch of ideas, and like this is a song, like I said, like things are set up to be a verse, set up to be a chorus. So like I'm thinking very clearly, I don't want any fucking vocals before this part. The vocals come in here. And as soon as like we were there, that's when Sean comes in. Because otherwise he'll just scream over everything. And I don't want him wasting his time either. Right? Like, so he actually did vocals over the original 7-minute mess version of the song.
Everybody put in a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
But it seems like it sounded like it had to happen for the final thing to happen. So
Krim didn't, luckily for him. he came in once it was actually a thing. But yeah, like. But actually, like when Sean did vocals over the original version, that started to make it real clear to me. I don't want vocals over certain parts. Like this is not supposed to be a vocal part. Like this is just supposed to be a riff. And from previous experience, I've noticed. I don't know how to. This might sound bad, but like, I not a tyrant, but. I've noticed that we need to trust my instincts, because my instincts have created the songs that people like by this band. And when I don't trust my instincts, that ends up with the stuff that people don't give a fuck about with this band. And like, that's just always how it's gone. And so if I feel strongly about like, there should be nothing here, like I'm going to impose that in a friendly way. I'm gonna be like, this sucks, but like communicate it clearly, because I feel like, I don't know, like I feel like my instincts are right for what DÅÅTH should be, and so that's pretty important. But the thing is, we're on the same page. Like the other dudes feel that way as well, so. Makes it easy. It makes it easy. We're not at odds about that. Like, I'm not saying that they don't have a say or anything like that. Always take people's opinions into consideration and stuff. But like, we're letting my instincts be the North Star with what we do, because there's always 8 million different things you could do in a song, right? So we're letting my gut instinct be what guides us. And so if like it's not supposed to have vocals, it's not supposed to have vocals. Now there is one part in one of the other songs we haven't released where Andrew and Sean did vocals anyways, and it came out fucking great. So always open to having my mind changed. But and when I heard that, I didn't feel like we were making a mistake. It wasn't like certain things in the past where I just gave in because like we needed to keep the lineup together.
Yeah.
Because we had tours. Like it legit made the part better. So I think it's important for people to have confidence in their instincts. And if they don't, then you need to work on your instincts.
And no matter what, if you're all actually on the same page in terms of what you actually want is for the song to be great.
Yes.
Then at the very least you should consider that above any opinion or sort of personal feeling about the thing. It's like, okay, well, it's not like I don't like your idea or something because of anything other than it isn't working in this part of the song or for the song overall. And
I do that to myself all the time. I've cut so many of my own ideas that I think are good, but they're just not right in the song. Like they make the song too long, or like the context doesn't make any sense. And you end up cutting parts that you worked really hard on. But it's important to not let the sunk cost fallacy get to you when writing. Sunk cost fallacy being where, for people who aren't familiar, it's I already invested this much money or time into something. I got to go with it. Like I worked so hard. Like we all have this instinct in us, or this drive to want to hang on to things that we put a lot of time or money into, effort. But you have to divorce yourself of that. It doesn't matter how long or hard you worked on something. If it doesn't make the song better, it's got to go. And sometimes that's going to be painful, because sometimes you will have worked on something for weeks or months. And not just that, maybe it actually is a really cool part. But if it doesn't make the song better, just use it for another song. Man, I heard Concealers demos from our album, The Concealers, recently. There's this one song called The Unbinding Truth, which is my favorite song on The Concealers. And the original version has this section that's like a minute long in the intro that got cut. And at the time that it got cut, I was so fucking bummed. And now I hear it and I'm like, yeah, that part's cool, but good choice, Jason Sukoff. Good choice cutting that. Like, I worked my ass off on that part, and it's a good part. But hearing the song with it, it's like, what's it even there for?
People aren't going to hear the hard work that went into it. They're just going to either enjoy it or not.
Correct. Get bored or not.
You don't get to like hold up your timesheet at the show and be like, look at how much time I put in this part. You therefore will enjoy it. No, doesn't happen.
That shit doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter also because how many times have we heard of some huge, amazing song that was written in one night or like an hour by some artist, and they're not lying? That happens. Like the amount of time you spend on a piece of art doesn't determine if the art's good or not.
Boom.
Yeah.
So this brings up or the thing that you said about listening back to old demos and stuff like that. So how is this experience for these new songs different from how you used to write with the band back when you did those earlier albums? How was that different? Was it more collaborative or similar?
Our best stuff was always like this. So when I started the band, I had a co-writer, this dude Mike Cameron. He was in the band from like 99 till 2008, and he was kind of like my other half writing-wise. But still, it was very much like this, where I would write and we would write together and just refine the shit out of it and have a huge backlog of material. And it really wasn't different. Where it started to get different was when Mike was no longer in the band. And I made the mistake of taking it on other people's ideas. that weren't Mike. This time around, like I said, I'm being a lot more like strict about maintaining the vision, because I feel like when I got lax about it, we started like that's where our self-titled album happened, and I'm not going to say that album's a mistake, but it's definitely our worst album. And that's the album that I had the least, like, where I was trying to be democratic. It's by far our worst album. Like, as the least catchy songs. It's got a lot of really cool parts and a lot of really great playing, but like the songs just they're not quite there, and it's because I was being democratic. And so like this is a lot more like the way the band started, where like it's very clearly defined who's writing, or who's starting the writing, and then you just incorporate people from there. Now, one of the big differences now is, well, back then I didn't have a 20-year backlog. So one of the things that I did, like I said, was I got the original demos transcribed and learned them so that I'd be in the original headspace. And actually, there is a riff in this song. If you go to Raphael's solo through this melody I wrote, so like at 2 minutes and 52 seconds, those eighth notes underneath that solo, the third section of the solo, that's actually a riff from our first song from 1999. I always liked that riff, and I always wanted to use it, and I found a way to use it in this song.
Sweet, let's listen real quick. That bit?
Yeah, the eighth notes that are playing, like it's almost like a texture riff underneath all those leads. That's from the original demo, and there's a lot of stuff throughout the new material where I took those influences. But man, my process for getting creative hasn't changed. Like, it's still me doing my thing. I'm a lot more confident in myself and what I bring to the table, and I'm a lot better at communication. So the years of running URM and Riff Hard, the years of like having some things go well, some things not go so well in my career, and like analyzing what was my part in this thing falling apart. Because I'm not one of those people who thinks that they don't have any blame in a situation. So, I've had my successes and I've had my catastrophes, and I've analyzed my catastrophes and figured out how can I do a better job working with people. And URM and Riff Hard are a testament to me having figured out how to work with people, because it's not like we haven't had challenges. And so I have taken that into this new version of DÅÅTH, and I'm very, very upfront now about like how I think things should be, while also trying to really keep in mind how other people feel about it, making sure that they feel fulfilled with the project, and that they feel like they're growing from it, and that it's fun, and that like it's an awesome thing. So, which is actually, it's a challenging thing to do, like inside my head, but in reality, it's actually been the easiest it's ever been, because we're all on the same page. And so part of it is that back in the past, I would get attached to people because I had this scarcity mindset. Because you got to keep in mind, the metal scene was very different 15 years ago in terms of quality of musicians. Dude, it was really hard to find people capable of playing this stuff back then. The thing about the old DÅÅTH music is that it's deceptively technical. So you need great players for it. And there weren't great players everywhere like there are now. So this time around, it was a lot easier to find great players where they're cool with how this works. So I'm not shitting on anyone from the past. I think they're all excellent musicians, some of the best in the world. And, I think they're great, but not everything is meant to last forever. And, obviously it didn't work out. But the reasons for why it didn't work out, is, right now I'm actively leaning into making sure that doesn't happen again. And so a big part of it is working with people who are down with how this operates. So if someone's not down with me being the main writer and this being my vision, then they probably shouldn't be in this band. And that's not to say that they're not great. If we're talking about playing in this band, they're probably great. So that's not to say they're not great. It just means this isn't the right situation for them, and it's not worth the heartache for either of us or the time wasted. I'll just work with people who are down. And one of the keys here is that everyone in the band has other shit going on. So Jesse doesn't need to be the main writer in DÅÅTH because he's writing shit all day long for so many people. Krim doesn't need to alpha his way through this shit and be a tyrant, because he's got Septic Flesh, he's got his YouTube channel, he's got all kinds of stuff. Sean's got Sinsanum. It's important for people. I think that's one of my requirements, is that anyone in the band has something else or a few other things going on, so that when they work with me, they're cool with how this one works. And having something cut or whatever doesn't interfere with their ability to feel fulfilled. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they were putting so much of their self into it all the time, and then you cut something that they wrote for it or whatever, and they've got nothing else, then they might, I don't know,
might not go so well.
Might not go so well.
That's not to say that they don't have a say. Of course they have a say. It's just we're cool with how we're cool. It's a good dynamic between us, and everybody has their own creative outlets. I have other shit going on as well too. So I'm a lot more comfortable with certain things that I wasn't comfortable with before. The reason I'm saying that is because I don't want it to sound like I'm their boss or anything, because I'm not. It's very much an equal say kind of thing. We split everything evenly. It's we take votes, we do all that. It's just as far as my role goes, we're all on the same page that I'm kind of the North Star when it comes to the vision and direction of the music.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So, on a sort of similar note, are there plans to take this band live at any point? And
yes.
Who's going to play those solos? Are you going to learn them? Jesus, man.
Fuck no, I'm not going to learn them. So, first of all, we're a ways off from that because we're not going to tour until after the album comes out. So, and we already talked to Raphael. He's going to do some live stuff with us. However, he's got his band, Obsidious. He's got his own shit. And let's just be real. We don't know what things are going to look like a year or a year and a half from now. So I don't want to say, yeah, Raphael's going to do it. What if he can't?
Yeah.
But we've talked to him. He's down to do some live work with us. We've talked to a few other fucking badass motherfuckers.
Dick
someone.
Rippers.
What's that?
Dick Rippers is what I call them.
Man, there will be someone or more than one who do this live with us. So I certainly am not learning those solos.
I think that was my main thought. I was not that I don't think that you could play them, maybe.
I don't know about that.
With some, I mean, it just sounds like nobody could play them.
Dude.
I'm not going to believe that anybody played those until I see some video evidence. That shit's just crazy.
It's crazy. There's a part in the Baroque section at the end where it goes into this counterpoint thing. And I wrote every note of it, but man, like I was struggling with it. It's at 244 if you want to play that.
Okay. I clicked right to it.
Sorry. It's at 344.
Ah.
All right. So there's like some huge string skips going on in those arpeggios. Like it's not super fast, but like it is all over the place. And I spent like a month on that. Just like I played everything leading up to that point, but then I could play it, but just we'd have to piece it together in the studio and go like a bar at a time, and it just like I just couldn't get it mastered. And I asked Spiro to play it. Of course, he learned in like a day. and it sounded great. So, dude, I am not above having. That's why I work with such great musicians. Is I know what my skills are. My skills are writing. My skills are vision. My skills are making shit happen in this world. Like something wasn't happening before, it is now. I'm good at that. Olympic level guitar playing, not so much.
Yeah,
like I just don't have that like the way these dudes do.
The chat is talking about Marty Friedman and Megadeth right now, and that's, I mean,
Great
like
example.
Dave Mustaine, pretty awesome guitar player, but not like the guys that he gets,
And that's okay because Dave Mustaine.
That's why it's a band. It's not just the one man show.
And he is obviously the creative force behind that band, because if you listen to their music from any era, the signature stuff is always the same. So, and that's how you know, like if a band changes lineup and one person stays the same and then it still sounds like that band, guess what?
Yeah.
There's Opeth, another great example. Opeth, even though they've changed their sound some, there's a reason for why it always sounds like Opeth, and that's Mike.
Yeah.
There's a reason for why Megadeth, like them or hate them, like their old stuff or their new, doesn't matter. It sounds like Megadeth because of Dave Mustaine. And he works with some of the most amazing genius level guitar players on the planet, like in history. And that's a perfect example. I feel like, and I'm not going to put myself in a category with Dave Mustaine or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but I feel like guys like us who are more like the writing, like vision for the band types, it's like a perfect symbiotic relationship with virtuosos. Like they need us, we need them, kind of thing.
Yeah, because nobody's gonna listen to them just do their crazy sweeps.
It's not to shit on
them.
It's not to shit on them either, because like some of them write really, really well, but it's like you just see that these partnerships work historically for a reason, and it's because like one person is better at one thing that the other person is not. Like try to imagine Megadeth without that level of soloing. Like that level of soloing elevates that band.
Yeah,
of course it does. So I think that, I don't know, for me personally, it's really important to work with virtuosos, and that's kind of a requirement in this band.
Yeah,
and that's not me. I'm not a virtuoso. I'm good, but not like that.
And of course, the sort of level that of virtuoso, like what even is a virtuoso, is constantly, the bar is being raised, and so you're getting more modern type of virtuoso, or like maybe just a different one, or a new, a new type of freak to keep it fresh.
That's what so when reforming this band, there was a lot of skepticism from people of like, how are you going to pull that off? Like, because the level of playing was pretty extreme for the time period. Even though, like I said, our songs are not like Arcspire or something, but like the level of musicianship on that old stuff is insane. And I was met with a lot of skepticism for doing it with new people, and understandably so. I get it, because like if I had a vision in my head of a band that was gone for over a decade, and I thought that the way they sounded was because of the way that I know them or remember them, then I would be very skeptical to hear that like the non-virtuoso dude is continuing it. And I know that they didn't know how the band operated or what my role was in the band, like, because I never really made that very public. Like, I've never given a shit about Spotlight. So, I never put that out there. So whatever opinions or ideas people had about a reunion that were negative, like they're not going to be able to do this, like that never pissed me off, because I get it. Like, why would you not distrust that this is going to be good? But I'm always going to be searching for what I think is like that next evolution in music and guitar playing. That's not to say that like I see people as expendable, because I certainly don't. But like in starting the band basically from scratch all over again, well, that was a huge opportunity to find like people that gave me that same feeling as I got back in the day when encountering some of those musicians. Like, holy fuck, this was unimaginable to me. Like, I didn't know people could play this well. Like, this is crazy. Like, it's awesome, man. Spiro and Raphael give me that feeling. They're so ridiculously amazing. So, but we couldn't tell people that they were playing with us, and they're not the only people who are doing leads for us on the new stuff, but we couldn't announce them. So, like, this whole time with our reunion, people don't even know if we're going to have like some lead guitarist on it. So I understand their skepticism.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, the public perception of anything is always going to be a weird version of events. And, I mean, if you think about what the average non-musician thinks about what a band is, how a recording is made, all this stuff, like, they're still picturing people going into a studio and recording live all together, you know,
Yeah.
and, like, there's this... like they all write the song together like it's fucking Sesame Street or something. Like they don't really have any conception of how it's actually done, how the politics or just interband dynamics go, and all that stuff. So if you don't explicitly explain how it works, they might not get it. Or they'll assume the worst or some weird version of how things go down. And that's just how it's going to be. Even if you do explicitly explain, it's just how that sucks.
Yeah, well, I'm explaining stuff here because we're having a podcast. But, like, in my opinion, even if I didn't, all I have to do is listen to the new stuff, and that explains it for people.
Yeah.
If they're worried about us not sounding like us or something like that, it's like, well... you hear the new stuff, what does it sound like?
Yeah.
Does it sound like us or not? Why do you think that is? Like, answer that for yourself.
Right. Well, I think that is a great place to stop it, because we're just cruising past 2 hours, which
Cool.
is a pretty good length for a podcast, I think.
Yep.
And also because I actually think you answered all of my questions, which is pretty rare.
Really?
They all, I mean, everybody, they all try. And I learn so much shit in every one of these podcasts that I do.
Well, I'm sure.
I do these more for me than anything else. I like to pick people's brains. And we always go off on great tangents. But I think maybe I don't know if it's just because you're a more focused person or because you also have not one but two of your very own podcasts that you're running. You know how to keep it on task. So thank you so much for not just for being here, for our once again 6th podcast episode together.
6th of more to come.
So far.
Yeah.
But also for actually keeping it on task and really giving me good in-depth answers to the questions and good tangents that were also very informative. So first of all, for for AL's other podcast, in case you guys are curious, it's the Unstoppable Recording Machine URM podcast and the Riff Hard podcast that he does with John Brown. Which you can also find on Ye Old Podcast everywhere that they are sold. And the new DÅÅTH track is out now that you heard today. You can find the Spotify link in the description below. Anything you can reveal about when we might hear some new, more singles or anything you want to tell us about on that front?
Yeah, so probably somewhere around every couple months for the next year or so until the album is ready to come out. There's something like that. There's going to be some sort of a release. We just recorded 2 fucking sick covers. Like, fucking sick covers. We have 2 other DÅÅTH songs that are totally done, ready to go, like mixed and mastered. So there's at least 4, plus everything we've been writing for the album. But like, there's at least 4 like just ready to go. And the album, look, I'm not going to say this for a fact, but as of now, the mix is scheduled for the end of August. So with Jens, and so that means that soon we're going to have other songs to release too. So we're going to be putting stuff out at a semi-frequent clip because, they're got to reestablish the band.
Yeah. And
one song's not enough.
One song is not. I mean, you could get a lot of bands do a reunion thing, and they're like, we're working on new material, when really they just put together one song so that they could go tour, so they'd have something exciting to put them back on the map. But you're gonna have a whole album. So that's how people can know that it is proper and not just some money grab or
grab,
whatever that bands come to, you know what I mean, like bands
like
do
money suck.
What's the reverse money grab. But like bands will do that kind of thing. But anyway, all that to say that is clearly not what's happening here. You're really putting in the time and effort to promote it, especially on the number 1 outlet for promoting your music.
That's right.
The How Songs Are Made podcast here on the Trey Xavier channel, and on the new How Songs Are Made podcast YouTube channel, which is where this is actually going to live. So everyone who is enjoying this, please hit the link in the description to go to the How Songs Are Made podcast channel, where all of these interviews are going to live as VODs. The live stream will continue to happen right here on the Trey Xavier channel for the time being, at least. And then then they'll be private, and then I'm going to put the final videos on the new channel, as well as clips and shorts and stuff like that. And for all previous episodes as audio episodes, just as you find them streaming everywhere, you can find that at the link in the description as well, or just on Spotify and everywhere that you find your regular podcast content. HowSongsAreMadePodcast.com is also where you can find basically all of these. And Al, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. These are always a fantastic time. Congratulations on putting out some awesome new music, getting the band back together, and everything that I know is just coming down the pipeline for DÅÅTH.
Well, thank you
It's all
very
very
much.
exciting.
Thanks for actually, asking engage. I would have expected no less, but still got to say thanks for asking such engaging questions.
Absolutely. Like I said, I do this so that I can learn, and it's just nice that other people are here to learn as well. And so I will hopefully talk to you real soon. And everybody at home watching and listening, this is just the beginning of season 2. And keep your eyes and ears peeled for more. And we'll see y'all real soon. Peace out.
See ya.
Bye.